It doesn't have a miss. I just drive around on the two-step. Today, we're gonna take this square body apart. Got our trusty bed cart back there. And all of our parts are here from TCI, and the Fourlink stuff's back from Powder Coat, and I also painted all the rest of the components that it's gonna take to get this thing swapped out. I guess this will be our last ride for, I don't know, a couple weeks maybe. Hopefully, not a month. We'll see. Torn off of our C10. I've found the quickest way to do this is grind the heads off of those factory rivets and then just take like a punch and wedge it behind the bracket and hit it with a hammer, and it'll knock those brackets off, and then you can clean up what's left of them later. Front suspension's off too, but we're not focusing on that on this video. We're gonna focus on this before we do our Fourlink. So it did leak on the pinion seal, so I have a new one of those. I'm gonna go ahead and point out we are gonna switch this to disc brakes, but for budget reasons and time, I just don't wanna spend $800 doing that right now. It can be like something I'll save for later to kind of just have a project to look forward to. What we're gonna do is install this Powertrax No-Slip. Now they do offer a lock right, which would say it right here instead of a no-slip. The lock right's more for off-road use. I would say if you're literally off-roading or drag racing or something like that, but it's not as forgiving as this one is on the street and in parking lots when you go to make a sharp turn. You don't want to listen to a bunch of racket going on back there or ratcheting. There's that seal for the pinion. Here is the picture on screen. So if you're asking for this part number, there it is. It's for 8.5-inch ring gear with 28 spline axles, 10 bolts. I have been in here to get rid of some of the trash. There's the manual installation guide. These are the two halves of it. And basically this just installs in the open diff style carrier. Call it a drop-in, new pin, and then these are the springs, which, yeah, pretty small. Anyway, we're gonna put this thing in because this is most assuredly an open diff. And the easiest way to tell, if you jack your car up, put the transmission in neutral, if you turn one side, the other side will tend to spin opposite. Also, if you're really industrious, you can turn the pinion yoke and hold one side and the other one will spin forward, and it just kind of lets you know that it's an open diff and not a locker. Well, it turns out we don't have an open diff. It's worse. It's this GM Gov lock, which is sort of a locking differential, but in the worst way. So basically what it does is when one tire gets to spinning fast enough, the weights swing out and engage the other tire. But by then, you've got enough speed and velocity, you can just break an axle, or worse, just explode the diff. So hopefully our Powertrax kit will fit in this carrier, but even if it won't, we'd need to replace this anyway because it will never survive 7,000 RPM neutral drops. I went ahead and just took the carrier out of that differential. Now, if you just have a regular open diff, you can remove the bolt that holds this pin in, take it out, push the axles in, pull the C-clips, axles out, drop this gear set out, and put your Powertrax locker in its place, just following the instructions. This one I got to remove to take apart this GV80 junk, and technically these need to go that way in order to pull these parts out. Now, if you read most instructions, they say to punch them out from this direction. But this carrier doesn't have any holes accessing them. So, hole. Any more parts could possibly be in this thing? Big difference of what we're trying to make up for here. So for less than the price of me ordering an open diff and an install kit, and then utilizing that drop-in locker, you can reach out to these guys at Rigid Axle and they'll sell you the locking carrier, an install kit, and set of gears of your choice, including their dry two-cut gears, which is like a quiet method, I guess, of cutting the gear pattern. So I returned that drop-in locker to Summit, which was a pretty simple process. Ordered this kit, we'll get it put together and put it in our differential. Now that I've got the caps torqued down to 60 foot-pounds, I just used the factory spacers that were in this diff after I transferred the ring over to the new carrier and got the pinion and everything installed. Just like to see where we are. You never can tell how much work it's going to take. It did feel plenty snug though. I liked how much tension was on this with the factory spacer, so probably close. Zero this gauge. I don't believe this is real life right now. I think I'm at 8 thousandths. Let's see how we get with this. By the way, this is way too much paint, and I don't care. Be sure and hold some resistance against this when you're trying to measure it. And make sure you go outside of the painted area so the pinion can spread paint maybe onto the ring a little further. We're gonna send it. A couple pro tips in this video. If you get your gears all set up and you think they're right, but they howl on acceleration, or if they howl on deceleration, there's one trick that works for either one that's pretty simple. Get yourself a Sawzall, and if you'll measure 3/8 of an inch in front of your muffler and cut it off, that usually solves it either way. Also, you're usually going to need to put friction modifier with these clutch type locking differentials. And people always talk about how difficult it is to get this stuff in. So they'll either pour it into a bottle of the gear oil and then you know it's already mixed. I personally just like to pour it right on to it. Probably the most effective method. In all seriousness, these axle assemblies always hold right at 2 quarts, so you don't need to worry about filling it with the pinion angle just right until it comes out. Now that the rear diff is all finished, we need to cut the shock mounts off and then get started on the C-notches. On a short bed, they say you're supposed to have 26 7/8 of an inch from the back of the frame to the back edge of this bracket. And that's where I've got it clamped into place. Now this is where you drill all these holes out, or at least the side holes, and bolt them in. But man, I'm afraid it'll make this frame look like Swiss cheese, so I may just cut the C-notch out and bolt like 3 or 4 on each end and then plug weld the rest. So when I had the bracket in place, I went ahead and center punched the holes, scored where it needs to be cut out, and scored the edges of it so I can kind of hit it with the grinder and clean that up so the weld will have a good surface to attach to. All right, we have 10 grade 8 bolts, 7 plug welds, and about a linear foot of welding bead. So yeah, I guess you could say I'm feeling pretty good about this 32-piece set. Back on the axle, these top plates for the upper bars of the Fourlink will mount onto them. They've put this locating pin that goes in the leaf spring pad and goes through the hole where their centering bolt for the leaf springs would drop in. Kind of takes the guesswork out, gives you a nice solid surface too. So I do like that. Through bolted to the bottom brackets where you can locate your coilover later. And basically it just saddles around the axle and will snug up real tight. Now what I will do is probably go ahead and run a little weld here and here just to give this a little more solid contact to the axle. I like the top plate, bottom plate basically could just, I don't know, it has these surfaces that I guess will butt up against the bottom of that. I'm sure it's strong enough, but this is where your lower 4 bolt links are gonna bolt, and also your panhard bar. The brackets we have left are the front mounts for the Fourlink, and you can tell which one to use by the round holes go to the front and the slotted holes go to the rear. You will have to open up these 4 bolt holes in your frame a little bit to accept the larger hardware. And I'll probably score it and mark it, grind that off some, run a bead here and here just for a little added strength. According to the instructions, you're supposed to measure these 24 3/4 of an inch from center to center. So I've got all of them done. And then 2 of them, you back out 2 full turns, and that's supposed to be your top bars. The instructions call for the panhard bar going from the driver's side, lower link bar, over to the passenger side, lower shock mount. But with the parking brake cables right here, I'm not sure that's a great idea. Oh, belly. Oh, Nelly. Well, sorry about the wind in the doors. I can't get this track bar to work. It clearly cannot go according to the instructions because it would be bolted on this side of the bolt. It would be fastened to this side of the bolt and lay right in front of where these parking brake cables go. So it only makes sense to run it from here to the passenger side. But no matter what, it's literally right at the drive shaft. Well, at least the yoke anyway from the pinion. So I'm gonna have to reach out to these boys in California and see what's going on there. I can, however, get these coilovers mounted up, and the way I deduced that we had the correct ones is these are the 350 pound and these are the 600 pounds. So these should be the front and these would be the rear. And they are Ride Techs, which are, I guess, owned by Fox logo. So I'm gonna get those fastened in the lowest setting because we wanna sit as low as we can. So I had to step away from the project for a second and clear my head by lengthening these 3 full turns from what TCI suggested. So that makes it 5 turns from the 24 3/4 center to center on the top bars. Gave me enough pinion angle to just clear this drive shaft yoke. It may need a little bit more, I guess we'll see. And it does make sense. I called the guys at TCI and just kind of let them know maybe on this later generation of square body, which I think their examples were older than 1981, the parking brake assembly is certainly different than it was like on the 81 we built. So I don't think they planned for this bracket to be as low as it is, out of fairness to them. But I've let them know now. We'll see what they do if they change anything. So put your track bar this away, as we say back home in Mississippi. I appreciate you guys sticking around and watching this far. I do like this kit. It's super nice. And the next thing we're gonna do is mount our fuel system, which will be the dual tanks with the higher pressure fuel pumps in them to run the LS. And we'll have new wiring and switch and valving and all kind of goodness. So be on the lookout for that one. Until then, we'll see you later.